Today's fun fact. Hello and happy Saturday evening. I got a great video for you today. But first, today's fun fact about me is I'm a TV buff. I have watched so many hours of TV in my youth mostly, but my very favorite TV show is Mama's Family. And I remember when I was little, I used to watch Carol Burnett and Friends with my mom, and we had the best time watching that show. I love Carol Burnett. And then when Vicki Lawrence started doing Mama's Family, it just became my favorite TV show. So I've seen every episode multiple times, and that's just a little fun thing about me. I do love my Mama's Family. So leave me a comment below. Tell me one fun fact about yourself. Maybe what's your favorite TV show? And now on with the DIYs.
So I was piddling around on Pinterest and I came across this beautiful, beautiful outdoor decor. And it looked like it was all from thrifted items. And the person who posted this is from French Creek Farmhouse. And so I knew I wanted to try to duplicate it. So I set out to my favorite antique store and I had everything on my list, the ladder, the chair, the bucket, and I really wasn't sure if I was going to be able to find all this stuff, but my Vienna Town Square Mall helped me find all the stuff that I needed. I'm talking about a chair for $5, a crate for $10. It all worked out perfectly. So the first thing I started to work on was the bucket. The bucket that I found cost $5 and it had a dark stain on it that I wasn't real thrilled about and the gold embellishment. So I'm going to have to transform this thing. Of course, if you have a bucket that's already the natural wood color, you can skip this step, but I needed to get rid of that dark stain and I'm using Easy Off oven cleaner. I actually sent my husband to the store after Citrus Strip, but in a small town, our little store didn't have it. So instead, I told him to get Easy Off oven cleaner. I have seen this technique used a few times on furniture, on Instagram, and it works for a lot of people. So let's give it a shot on this bucket. I sprayed as thick a coat as I could onto the side of the bucket and the top rim, and then I let it sit for an hour and a half. I would have done this whole project outside, but it was kind of cold and misty rain where I live, crazy. But anyway, I brought it in and used a plastic scraper to scrape the varnish off. And the first thing that I noticed was the oven cleaner turned that old varnish into a sticky goop. And so that's why I thought maybe I could scrape it off better than using a brush. I've seen some people use brushes to brush it off, and I've seen people use steel wool. Well, I didn't have steel wool, so I'm using this plastic scraper. Now, make sure that you're wearing gloves, proper protection. This oven cleaner is a very harsh chemical. You might even want to wear a mask because it is pretty fumey. After I scraped what I could off for the first round, then I sprayed the Easy Off on a second time and I let it sit for an hour and I scraped again. Now I don't have footage of it, but after I got done scraping the varnish off, then I just took it over to my kitchen sink and I ran warm water over it and cleaned it all off. Then I let it set overnight with a fan pointed on it to dry it out. Oh, and after the second spray of the Easy Off, the gold trim came off. It was just a plastic film that was on there. So I just peeled that back and revealed a gray trim that was underneath. Here she is the next morning, all dry and looking 100% better in her natural wood state. Some of the varnish did stick to the top around the edge, but I kind of liked that character to it where it had, some varying different imperfections, we'll call them. So I had these ferns already. They came from the Dollar Tree a long time ago, like before the Dollar Tree was the $1.25 tree. So I had a lot of them and I hadn't used them. So here is my chance to put them to some good use. I'm going to put them in this bucket. I don't love the color of these ferns, and I think some nicer ones from Hobby Lobby would look better and a lot more like the photo, but we're just going to go with what I already have. Let me introduce you to my home scenting graveyard. In this drawer, I have all kinds of plugins, all kinds of waxes for tart burners, the cheap and the expensive. I have things from the Bath and Body Works store and just all kinds of stuff that I've tried to make my home smell nice with and just never have been 100% happy. I've traded all that in now for this. This is the Hotel Collection Scent Diffuser, and what makes it so unique from all the other things is that, for one, it actually scents your home. You turn it on, you smell it immediately, and it can be just as powerful as you want it to be or as faint as you want it to be, because it comes with this remote control and you have total control over when it's turned on and how much scent it's putting out. But the best part is these scents are hotel inspired. Not just hotel inspired, 5-star hotel inspired. So if you want your home to smell like that irresistible luxury smell when you're in a nice hotel, then this is the product for you. And besides the diffuser, they also have lots of candles in the same nice scents on the website. Use the discount code RHONDA at checkout and you will get 30% off your order. There's a link in my description box down below where you can go and shop right now. Back to the outdoor thrifted DIYs, and the next thing on the list is the watering can. Well, you'd be surprised how hard it is to find an old metal watering can. Good luck to you if you're looking. But I found this old metal gas can that I liked just as well. So I'm going to remove that plastic lid that I don't think probably originally came on it. Remove that, and then I will take the top off of it, and then I'm going to paint it green just like the one in the picture, and add some cute little white flowers. So it seems I can never find just the right shade of green that I'm wanting for every project that I do. I always wind up having to mix my green paints. So today I am mixing the Waverly Moss chalk paint with the Waverly Celery chalk paint, some Apple Barrel Spring Green, and a little bit of Apple Barrel Marsh Green to get the perfect shade for me today. But whatever color green works for you, just paint it right up. As I brushed the paint onto the old gas can, I wanted to leave some spots of rusty metal showing. So I was very light-handed with this paint and tried to just leave some bare spots and tried to make it look old and vintage, like this paint was actually chipping off of this can. And I loved her. I stinking adored her. By the time I got done putting that first little coat of green on, I loved her. But there was a hitch in the giddy up. The problem was the chair is also supposed to be green like the picture, and I didn't want them the identical same color green. So here we go with the green paint mixing again. This time I'm going to add some of that marsh green straight up right onto the can.
What do you want? You guys, you gotta let me work now. Come on, get down. No, get down. Yachty. Yachty, get down.
and my critters were extra curious today. So I just lightly added on top of the lighter green paint some of that darker green paint just to distinguish the difference between the chair and the gas can. And it turned out that I'm really happy that I wound up having to do this because it gave another dimension of color to the gas can, making it look like it was even older than when I first painted it. I thought I couldn't love this gas can more until I filled her with flowers. These are baby's breath flowers from the Dollar Tree, and I can't often say that, the Dollar Tree has some of my favorite flowers, but in the case of these pretty white little baby's breath, they are my favorite flowers for this gas can. They go so pretty with that green color, and they were just the perfect thing. Back to our inspiration photo, the next thing in line is the green chair. Now, once upon a time, I did have the exact chair that's in the inspiration picture, but I sold it in my last yard sale. So this one I found at my antique store for $5. It's the perfect chair to go outside because it's a little bit rickety. You wouldn't really want to sit on it, but it's perfectly sturdy enough to hold some decorations. So again, here is my green paint concoction. Just go ahead and use whatever green paint makes you happy. Any green paint would be pretty, I'm sure. So here I'm using just a really light hand as I'm brushing this onto the chair, leaving some spots bare that makes it look naturally distressed and like the paint is actually chipping off of the chair. And then one of my critters thought he would look pretty in green too.
Piper, did you get in the paint? It looks like you got in the paint. Yes, you did. And that's how it happened right there. Piper.
Now, if this chair is going to be out in the weather, like an uncovered porch or back deck or something, you will need to seal it with something so that the paint does not wash off in the rain and weather. Next up in the inspiration picture, hiding behind the bucket and that ornamental piece, was a metal container. It looked like a metal pitcher, and I was unable to locate anything like that in my antique store. So at the Dollar Tree, I picked up one of these metal buckets with a jute string top. You're not going to recognize this little bucket by the time I'm done with it. The first thing you need to do is remove the jute string. And I don't know why, for some reason I thought it needed squished a little. I didn't want it to be a completely round container, so I just squished it a little bit. Then I want it to be galvanized looking, so I used some white acrylic paint and some gray acrylic paint, and I'm going to use a sponge brush, and I'm going to start with the gray, and I'm going to lightly pounce that sponge brush into the gray paint and all over the bucket until it's pretty well covered. And then use your hairdryer or heat gun to dry that gray paint before you add the white paint. And do the same thing with your white paint. Just lightly pounce the brush into the white paint and then all over the bucket on top of the gray paint. Then blast it with your hairdryer to dry it. Then I felt like it needed aging even more. So I decided to use a technique that I learned from my friend Crafty Kathy, and I will put a link in my description box down below for the video where she used this. We're gonna make rust out of Mod Podge and cinnamon. The technique is super simple. Just dip your brush into the Mod Podge a fair amount, brush it where you want the rust to be, and then sprinkle the cinnamon on top a good amount, and then use your fingers to work that cinnamon into the Mod Podge and create that rusty look. I felt like the more I pressed that cinnamon into the Mod Podge and kind of worked with it and moved it around, the better I liked it. So you just play around with it and see how you like it. When you get it the way you think you like it, then just tap off the excess cinnamon. Then I got a wild hair to beat up this container some more. So I got my pliers and I jabbed until I got a good little dent going in there, and I put my fake rust where that dent was. The inspiration picture looked like it had these very eucalyptus plants from Walmart in it, so I used one bunch of those. And also in the inspiration picture there was some white flowers, so I did use some of the Dollar Tree white hydrangeas to put in there with it. The next thing in the inspiration picture to duplicate was the macrame bottle cover. I was able to use a genuine old bottle that I got at the antique store for $1.50. It originally held citrate magnesium, which I think is a laxative, and I've had this macrame cord for a long time that I just had ordered off of Amazon. You'll start by tying a string of the macrame cord around the neck of the bottle, and you want it to fit just a little bit loose, not so loose that it would come right off of the bottle if you pulled up on it, but you want to be able to put your finger underneath so that you can put other pieces of string underneath that loop. Double knot it and then cut off the excess. Next, you'll need 4 very long pieces of the macrame cord. They need to be 5 times the height of the bottle. Once you have your 4 long pieces of string cut, then you'll begin attaching them to the loop that you tied around the neck of the bottle. So this is why you needed to have enough room to work to put that string through the loop and pull it through to where it's in half. Then just tie a knot to secure it in place. Repeat tying the long strings through the loop for all 4 pieces and trying to separate them the same distance apart. Now you have your 4 strands of string tied onto the loop. The next thing is to start tying your strands together. So you'll take 2 pieces that are not of the actual same piece of string and tie a double knot. Then go to the next set of strands that don't have a knot yet and tie a double knot. And try to make all of your knots the same distance down. Like this knot that I'm making now, I'm trying to make it the same distance down from the neck of the bottle as the first knot I tied. Then turn the bottle and go on to your next set of strands and tie a double knot. And so you see, you do this with all 4 strands of string. After you get your first row of knots made, then you turn the bottle and skip down to tying your knots into the next row. And I continued to go like this all the way down to the bottom of the bottle. And then once I got to the bottom, I'll show you what I did next. If this were going to be a hanging piece, you could keep on going and let there be fringes at the bottom, but since this is going to be sitting on something, I didn't want fringes hanging off the bottom. So I tied a piece of the macrame cord around the bottom of the bottle, double knotted it, cut off the excess, and then began tying the loose ends around the cord that I just tied around the bottom. And here's what it looked like after I finished off the ends. And like I said, you could leave these as fringes. You could brush them out, unravel them, and they would make nice fringes. But since this is going to be sitting on something, I cut them off. Then to finish it, wrap some of the macrame cord around the neck of the bottle. You could use hot glue and glue it down, but I just tied a knot. The inspiration picture showed this little bottle having some white flowers, so I'm using some Dollar Tree hydrangeas. Next up in the inspiration picture is this cage decoration. They have these ceiling fan light fixtures at a store called Menards, and they're only a couple bucks. And I've bought a couple of them to use in my crafting because I thought they made really cool farmhouse crafts. And so this is what I'm going to use with this one. The only thing I'm going to do is paint that gold black. And if the gold doesn't bother you, then you don't have to do any crafting at all. It's going to be really cool just as is. The Dollar Tree has the perfect size LED pillar candle to fit inside. So this is a really inexpensive alternative for the decoration in the inspiration picture. Last but not least, the little planter with the greenery. They have a pretty similar planter at the Dollar Tree. It's more of a terracotta color, which I like, but since we're duplicating what's in the picture, I painted it with a combination of Waverly Mineral Paint and Waverly Truffle Paint. I only painted the outside. I used 2 coats and let it dry. And I used some of that same eucalyptus greenery from Walmart to fill this planter. Now it's time for the really fun part, the actual decorating. There's the crate I picked up for $10, And here is the beautiful old wooden ladder that I got for $5. What a steal. I already had these books that I'm going to use, and I did pick up this crochet doily for $3 at the antique store. And here it all is, all put together. I think I did a pretty darn good job duplicating my Pinterest inspiration. What do you think? Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this video. I sure had fun making it. And if you want to see more thrift flips, click the link that I provided for you right here. It'll take you to the next video, and I'll see you next time. Bye.